So I want you to imagine two people sitting in the exact same traffic jam.
Okay, yeah.
It's a Tuesday morning. It is absolutely pouring rain outside, and, they are both 10 minutes late for work.
Oh, the worst feeling.
Right, the absolute worst. And the gridlock stretches for miles. Now, the first person is gripping the steering wheel so hard their knuckles are totally white.
Yeah, just pure tension.
Exactly. Their jaws clenched tight, their heart rate is super elevated, and, cortisol is just flooding their system.
They're essentially in fight or flight.
Totally.
Hmm.
They're playing this terrifying mental movie about how their boss is going to scream at them or, maybe even fire them. They are in pure biological survival mode.
Right, over a traffic jam.
Over traffic they can't control.
Yeah.
But then you have the other person. They are in the car right next to them, maybe a foot away.
Okay.
And they are just casually listening to an audiobook.
Sipping their coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Sipping their coffee, completely at peace with the fact that they literally cannot move their car.
Because there's nowhere to go.
Right. So the real question here is, what is the actual neurological difference between those two brains?
That is the big question.
It is. And more importantly, why does the second person, the one who is just chilling with their coffee, why do they seem to effortlessly attract better jobs, happier relationships, and massive opportunities, while that first person just keeps hitting walls?
Yeah, it's such a universal observation.
Today, we're looking at the literal mechanics of why life rolls out the red carpet for some people and just constantly pulls the rug out from others.
It really is the ultimate question of human behavior, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
I mean, when we see someone who just has that effortless success, our immediate cultural default is to assume they are just incredibly lucky.
Right. We think, oh, they must be born into money.
Exactly. Or they have some rare, innate genius that the rest of us just lack. We desperately look for these external, unchangeable explanations.
Because it's easier.
It is so much easier. Because, frankly, if their success is just luck, well, it completely absolves us of the responsibility of looking inward.
Yeah, we don't have to examine our own mental machinery.
Precisely. But the material we are diving into today completely dismantles that assumption.
It really does.
It strips away the whole myth of the lucky break and points to a very specific internal mechanism that literally anyone can control.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive.
I'm excited.
Me too. We are pulling from an incredible stack of sources today, but it's all anchored by a text called The Alchemy of Gratitude, Transforming Life Through Appreciation.
Which is such a good read, by the way.
It really is. It acts as this masterclass breakdown of a very famous philosophy that was originally explored in a book called The Magic.
Oh, right. A classic.
So we are going to unpack this core philosophy. And it argues that the dividing line between those two drivers in the traffic jam isn't their resume, and it's not their bank account.
No, it's something entirely different.
Right. The hidden mechanical force behind, every great achievement and every resilient mind is actually incredibly accessible. It's gratitude.
But I think we need to establish a very clear boundary right here at the start.
Oh, for sure. Let's do that.
Because when we use the word gratitude today, we are not talking about good manners.
No, not at all.
We are not talking about that polite, socially conditioned thank you that you mutter when, someone holds an elevator door for you.
Right, the automatic response.
Exactly. We aren't even really talking about a fleeting, warm emotion.
So what are we talking about?
We are examining gratitude as a literal cognitive technology.
Cognitive technology. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, it's a mechanical, psychological, and neurobiological force.
Yeah.
And it's capable of fundamentally rewiring your health, repairing your broken relationships, and completely changing your financial trajectory.
It literally alters how reality responds to you.
It does.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I know that for a lot of people listening to us right now, the word gratitude kind of sets off immediate alarm bells.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds soft.
It sounds super soft. It sounds like something you see cross-stitched on a decorative throw pillow in your aunt's living room.
Exactly. Live, laugh, love.
Right. Live, laugh, love. It doesn't sound like a tactical, aggressive tool for changing your reality. For some, it even sounds like toxic positivity.
I hear that critique a lot, yeah.
But the premise we are exploring today is massive. It suggests that if you, the listener, apply the specific, targeted mechanics we are going to break down, your entire baseline experience of life will completely transform.
It is a staggering claim.
It's huge.
It really is. But the reason it sounds so unbelievable to people is because we fundamentally misunderstand what gratitude is actually doing inside the brain.
We have it totally backwards.
We do. Our default understanding is highly passive. I think gratitude is simply a response to something good that has already happened.
Right. Like the promotion comes, so then you feel grateful.
Money arrives, so you feel grateful.
Yeah.
But this framework flips that equation entirely on its head. It posits that gratitude is the actual cause of the good things happening, not the result.
That is such a wild concept to wrap your head around.
It is. And before we can get into the really mind-bending stuff like how this alters your finances and your relationships, we have to look under the hood.
Yeah, we have to look at the internal physics of how your brain filters reality.
Exactly.
Right? We have to talk about the foundational law of this whole system, the underlying physics of how we experience the world. And honestly, it can be summed up in one sentence.
Which is?
Whatever you focus on expands.
Yes, that is the core rule.
If you wake up and you hyper-focus on your stress, the things you lack, the bills you can't pay, and just, the general negativity of the world, life doesn't just remain neutral.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Life actually seems to pile on, giving you more reasons to panic.
Exactly. And I want to stress that this isn't mysticism. This is hardcore neuroscience.
Let's get into the science of it then.
So, your brain is essentially the most powerful filtering machine in the universe. At any given second, there are literally millions of bits of sensory information bombarding your nervous system.
Like millions.
Millions. Every single sound, every slight change in temperature, every tiny visual cue.
And we don't notice most of it.
Right, because if your conscious mind actually had to process all of it, you would go insane in about 3 seconds.
Our heads would just explode.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So evolution gave us this amazing bundle of nerves at the base of the brainstem. It's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
The RAS.
Think of the RAS as the bouncer at the club of your conscious mind.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, the bouncer decides what information gets in and what just gets ignored at the door.
Okay, so how does the bouncer know what to let in?
By listening to your underlying belief, your RAS is entirely programmed by what you habitually focus on.
Interesting.
So if your baseline subconscious belief is that life is unfair and people are always out to get me.
Which is how a lot of people feel.
Very true. If that's your belief, your RAS acts like a heat-seeking missile all day long.
Wow.
It will scan those millions of bits of data, and it will lock onto every single slate, every rude comment, every minor inconvenience.
Like someone cutting you off in traffic.
Exactly. And it will present all of this to your conscious mind as undeniable proof that you are right.
It's like, see? I told you.
Yeah.
We got cut off in traffic, the coffee is cold, life is just terrible.
Right. It creates an echo chamber. But if your underlying belief is that life is abundant and full of opportunity, well, your RAS performs the exact same mechanical filtering process, but it looks for completely different evidence.
So it changes the guest list for the club.
Perfect way to put it. It suddenly flags that job opportunity you would have totally ignored yesterday. It notices the kind gesture from a stranger. It spots the solution to a problem you've been stuck on.
So wait, a highly successful, joyful person isn't joyful because they magically have zero problems.
No, they have problems just like everyone else.
But they are joyful because they have deliberately programmed their RAS to flag what is already good.
Exactly.
They focus on their health or the fact that they have clean water, the ability to breathe, the ability to learn. And by doing this, they are essentially retraining the bouncer.
They are. They are actively shifting their attention away from the threat and pointing it toward the opportunity.
That makes so much sense.
And the practical application of this is psychological resilience. When you systematically train your neural pathways to recognize the good, you are building cognitive armor.
Cognitive armor. Wow.
Yeah, you are physically thickening the myelin sheath around the neural pathways associated with calm and resourcefulness.
So it's a physical change in the brain.
Absolutely.
No.
So when a massive crisis inevitably hits, a person who has trained their brain in gratitude doesn't just collapse into a puddle of despair.
Because their brain isn't wired to just scream threat all the time.
Right. It's wired to instantly start looking for the surviving blessing or the hidden advantage.
Which is a huge competitive edge.
It is. This is exactly why you see elite performers. I mean, CEOs, professional athletes, special forces operators. They all utilize these practices.
Yeah, you hear about that all the time.
And it's not because they are soft. It's because gratitude makes them incredibly hard to break.
I love that phrase, cognitive armor. It really maps perfectly onto how algorithms work today, too.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Think about the phone in your pocket right now. Let's compare your reticular activating system to a social media algorithm.
Okay, let's look at that.
If you open an app and you stop scrolling to watch a video of people just like screaming at each other in a parking lot.
Which happens a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And you watch it for just 5 seconds. What does the algorithm do?
It registers that engagement.
Exactly. It says, oh, they want conflict. And suddenly your entire feed is an absolute war zone. It just feeds you outrage after outrage.
Because that's what you lingered on.
Yes. And your brain operates on the exact same principle. If you linger on a stressful thought about your bank account, your mental algorithm feeds you 10 more terrifying thoughts about going bankrupt, just to keep you engaged.
Yeah, it feeds the fear.
So this philosophy is essentially teaching us that gratitude is the hacking tool. You are manually overriding the feed. You're telling the algorithm, no, show me things that make me feel powerful.
That analogy is flawless. You are actively changing the input, so the machine has absolutely no choice but to change the outputs.
Right.
But we have to be really honest here.
Okay.
This requires deliberate, exhausting, conscious effort, especially in the beginning.
It's not a quick fix.
No, you are fighting against hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary programming. Your brain wants you to look out for predators and problems.
Because that's what kept us alive.
Exactly. Our brains are hardwired for negativity bias. Noticing the tiger in the bushes kept our ancestors alive.
Noticing the pretty sunset did not.
Right. The sunset doesn't save you from a tiger.
Wait, hold on. This brings up a massive issue for me.
Okay, let's hear it.
It is really easy to talk about hacking your algorithm and focusing on the sunset when things are generally okay in your life.
Sure.
But what about when your life is genuinely falling apart?
Yeah.
Like when your spouse just asked for a divorce, or the medical test came back positive, or you are facing eviction.
Those are real, intense traumas.
Isn't it practically impossible to force the brain to just focus on the positive?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we essentially asking someone to be completely delusional in the face of real tragedy?
I am so glad you asked that, because that is the most common and frankly the most vital resistance to this entire philosophy.
It just feels like it's asking too much.
Right. Look, if your house is literally on fire, you do not stand in the kitchen feeling grateful for the warmth.
Right. That's insane.
That is psychosis, not gratitude.
All right.
This framework is absolutely not suggesting delusion.
Okay.
It is not suggesting you ignore the eviction notice or pretend the divorce isn't agonizing.
So what is it suggesting?
What it is saying is that trying to solve those massive, life-altering problems from a state of pure, unadulterated panic is highly ineffective.
Because your brain is freaking out.
Exactly. When you are in a state of terror, your amygdala completely hijacks your brain. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that is responsible for logic, creativity, and long-term planning,
Yeah.
it literally shuts down.
Wow. It just turns off.
It goes offline. Your vision physically narrows. You miss obvious solutions.
If you're just trying to survive the next 5 seconds.
Precisely. By practicing gratitude, you aren't ignoring the fire. You are regulating your nervous system enough so that you can actually find the fire extinguisher.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But willpower alone cannot force a positive mindset when you are terrified. Willpower burns out.
So what do you do?
You have to build this baseline of calm through very boring, very practical daily mechanics.
Which perfectly transitions us into those actual mechanics.
Let's get into it.
How do we actually build this baseline? Because clearly, as you said, it's not just walking around with a vague, pleasant sense of appreciation.
No, it's practice.
The sources we were looking at get incredibly granular about how to actually do this, starting with just the phrase thank you, and specifically how you structure your morning.
The mechanics are where the philosophy drops the abstract theory and becomes a physical practice.
Right.
And the text is very, very firm on this. Saying the words thank you is powerful, but only, and this is a massive non-negotiable caveat, only when the phrase is felt emotionally.
You can't just mumble it.
No. If you are just mechanically reciting words like a robot, you're doing absolutely nothing.
Just wasting breath.
Exactly. The power, the actual electrical signal that changes your brain, is the emotion attached to the words.
So the goal is to make it a constant hum in the background of your life.
Yes, a constant presence.
Whispering thank you to yourself before you eat a meal, or when you receive a text from a friend, or when you find $1 on the street.
Even the tiny thing.
And strangely, even when something goes wrong. But the heavy lifting, the absolute cornerstone of this entire cognitive rewrite, is the morning gratitude practice.
Let's dissect that morning routine because the timing of it is not an accident.
The timing matters.
Immensely. The moment you wake up, your brain is transitioning from delta and theta waves, which are the deep sleep and dream states, into alpha waves.
Okay, science time again.
Yeah, and in that transition, your subconscious is incredibly porous and suggestible. It's usually just for those first 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So the text dictates that every single morning, before you touch your phone, before you check your email, and before you allow a single anxious thought about your schedule to form.
Which is so hard.
It's very hard, but you must sit down with a physical pen and paper and write out 10 things you are grateful for.
And it has to be physically written down, right? Not just typed on a laptop or thought about while you're in the shower.
Exactly. The physical act of handwriting engages the motor cortex and forces the brain to slow down.
It makes it real.
Yes. It processes the thought linearly, which prevents your mind from wandering back to your anxieties about the day.
Okay, that makes sense.
But here's the linchpin of the whole exercise, the part that actually makes it work.
I'm listening.
Beside every single item on that list of 10, you must write the word because and explain exactly why you are grateful for it.
Yeah, I actually tried this morning in preparation for this deep dive, and I noticed the difference immediately.
Oh, really? How did it go?
Well, if you just write, I'm grateful for my dog, my coffee, my bed, it basically feels like writing a grocery list.
Right, it's very clinical.
It's completely emotionally hollow. But when I force myself to write, I'm grateful for my dog because he sat with me when I was feeling incredibly lonely last night.
There it is.
Or I'm grateful for my health because I can walk outside without being in physical pain. It completely changed the exercise. I actually felt it.
What's fascinating here is that you engaged a totally different part of your brain.
I could feel the shift.
When you just list items, you stay in the analytical, detached part of your mind. But the moment you have to articulate the why, you force your brain to access the episodic memory associated with that thing.
So I had to picture the dog sitting with me.
Exactly. You have to recall the feeling. The why is the ignition switch for the limbic system, which is where your emotions live.
Oh, wow.
And as we established, the emotion is the actual neurobiological force that rewires the RAS.
Right. The emotion is the signal.
By doing this the second you wake up, you are dictating the biochemical cocktail of your entire day. You are setting the algorithm before the chaotic world has a chance to set it for you.
I really want to emphasize how important that emotional component is. Because when you first start this, it can feel really, really frustrating.
It feels very unnatural at first.
It does.
Yeah.
I want to stretch an analogy here. I compare saying thank you mechanically without the feeling to turning the key in a cold car engine in the absolute dead of winter.
Okay, paint the picture for me.
So you turn the key, the engine turns over, it rumbles to life. But the cabin of the car is still freezing cold.
Right, you're shivering.
Exactly. Your breath is fogging up the windshield. You don't feel any heat at all. In fact, if you put the car in gear immediately, the transmission grinds because the oil is thick and sluggish.
It needs time.
Right. When you first start this morning routine, if you are deeply depressed or stressed, you might be writing these lists and whispering thank you and feeling absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
You feel cold, the gears are grinding, the cognitive dissonance is super loud.
It feels fake.
It feels totally fake.
Yeah.
But the core philosophy here is that you have to let the engine run. You have to keep turning the key, writing the list, stating the why, day after day.
Consistency is everything.
Eventually the oil warms up, it coats the gears, and the emotional heat finally starts blowing through the vents. You just can't quit on day 3 because you don't feel like a Zen monk yet.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. You are priming the pump. You cannot expect to have a transcendent, rewiring emotional experience on day 1 if you have spent the last 30 years marinating in cynicism and complaint.
30 years of bad code.
Exactly. Those negative neural pathways are like superhighways in your brain.
8 lanes wide.
Right.
No.
The new gratitude pathways are like tiny, overgrown dirt paths in the woods. You have to drive a bulldozer through the woods every single morning to widen the path. You have to let the engine warm up.
But wait, let's talk about the rest of the day. Whispering thank you all day long.
Okay.
If I am whispering thank you when I eat an apple, when I wake up, when I get an email, when I literally find a decent parking spot,
Yeah, for everything.
doesn't that run the risk of completely diluting the power of the word?
How do you mean?
Well, if everything is a miracle, then nothing is a miracle. If I say it 100 times a day, doesn't it just become white noise? Like a word you repeat so many times it loses all its meaning?
That is a very logical concern, but it's based on a fundamental misconception of what human energy actually is.
Okay, correct me.
It assumes that gratitude is a finite resource. It assumes you have a tank with only so much appreciation inside, and if you waste it on a parking spot, you won't have any left for your child's graduation.
Oh, I see.
But gratitude is generative, not finite. The more you use it, the larger your capacity for it becomes.
Like a muscle.
Exactly like a muscle. You aren't diluting the word, you are saturating your consciousness with it. You are trying to make it your default state of being.
Wow.
Think about it like breathing. You breathe constantly, thousands of times a day. Breathing doesn't lose its value because you do it frequently.
Right, you die if you stop.
You do it frequently because it is the fundamental requirement for sustaining your physical life. This framework is asking you to treat gratitude as the oxygen for your mental state.
So you need it constantly.
You breathe it in over the small things so that your lungs are strong enough to handle the big things.
Treating it as oxygen, okay, that completely reframes it for me. And if we can manage to do that, if we can oxygenate our brains, warm up the engine, and train our focus away from fear, we are finally equipped to tackle the boss level of human anxiety.
Oh, I know where we're going.
The absolute most fear-inducing, cortisol-spiking subject in modern life. Let's talk about money.
Yes. This is where the theory is truly put to the test.
It really is.
Our financial lives are arguably where we hold the most profound, deeply ingrained emotional blocks, and where our sense of survival is most literally threatened.
It is so painful because it's so universal. Most people, regardless of how much they actually earn, have an incredibly toxic relationship with money.
Yes, even wealthy people.
Exactly. Think about the internal monologue you have when you check your bank account. We constantly complain about the cost of groceries.
Eggs are too expensive.
Right. We live in a persistent, low-grade terror of losing our jobs or facing an unexpected expense. The overarching soundtrack playing in our heads on a loop is simply, I do not have enough. I am not safe.
Scarcity mindset.
But this philosophy suggests that this very mindset, this intense, agonizing focus on lack and scarcity, is the exact mechanism pushing financial abundance away from us.
And it connects perfectly back to our bouncer, the reticular activating system.
Bringing the bouncer back.
If your primary emotional engagement with money is anxiety, stress, and lack, your brain will constantly highlight every single expense as a mortal threat.
So paying for gas feels like an attack.
Yes. When you operate from a defensive, contracted state of scarcity, your prefrontal cortex shuts down your creative, problem-solving abilities.
We can't think straight.
You literally repel opportunities because you are too terrified to take a calculated risk. You aren't looking for ways to grow your income or invest in yourself. You are just bracing for impact, clutching whatever pennies you have.
So to fix this, the practice prescribes a radical shift in posture.
Very radical.
It states that you must become actively, deeply grateful for every single cent that you already have in your possession. And it stresses emphatically that the amount does not matter. Whether you have $10 to your name or 10 million, the feeling of gratitude must be identical.
The feeling is what matters.
You have to appreciate every direct deposit, every cup of coffee that money buys you, and every tiny bit of comfort it provides.
And they provide a very specific tactical exercise to enforce this rewiring.
What is the exercise?
The instruction is that every single time money enters your life, whether it's your salary, a $5 rebate, or finding a quarter in the sofa cushions.
Literally a quarter.
Literally a quarter. You must silently acknowledge it and say, thank you for this money.
Okay, that seems easy enough.
But the second half of the exercise is where the real paradigm shift happens.
Right.
Every single time you spend money, every time you swipe your card for gas or pay a utility bill, you must silently say, thank you for the ability to buy this.
Thank you for the ability to buy this.
Yes.
Just saying that out loud feels totally different than how I usually pay a bill.
It is a massive cognitive reframe. Let's really unpack the psychological weight of what happens when we spend money.
Oop, let's do it.
Usually, when we hand over cash or pay a bill online, we experience a micro-trauma.
A micro-trauma.
Yes, we experience it as a pure loss. We watch the bank balance decrease, and our brain releases stress hormones. We feel resentment toward the electric company or the grocery store.
We just focus on the pain of parting with the money.
We focus entirely on the money leaving our protection. But by forcing yourself to pause and say, thank you for the ability to buy this, you are forcefully ripping your attention away from the loss of the resource.
And pinning it on what?
Pinning it onto the value of the thing you are receiving. You are acknowledging a profound truth. You have the
Yeah.
power, the infrastructure, and the resources to participate in society.
Oh, wow.
You can turn on a switch and light floods your house because you have the ability to pay the electric company.
That's a miracle, really.
It is. You are reframing an act of loss into an act of profound empowerment. It shifts your baseline from scarcity, meaning I'm losing my survival resources, to abundance.
Meaning, I am capable of providing for myself.
Exactly.
That completely changes the energy of the transaction. It reminds me of how we treat people.
How so?
Well, think of money like a guest who comes to visit your house.
Okay, I like this.
Imagine you have an acquaintance who comes over, and every single time they pull into your driveway, you complain about how long it took them to get there.
Oh, terrible host.
Right. You stress out the entire time they're sitting on your couch, hyperventilating about when they're going to leave. And then when they finally do leave, you stand in the doorway crying and complaining bitterly about how empty the house feels.
That sounds exhausting.
How long is that guest going to keep visiting you?
They're never coming back.
They are going to stop answering your calls. They will go visit a house where the host welcomes them with a huge smile, where their presence is celebrated, and where they are wished well and thanked when they go on their way. Right. If we treat our money like a terrifying, unwanted burden, always agonizing over it, we are basically projecting an energy of desperation. We have to become gracious hosts to our finances.
The guest analogy is incredibly apt because it highlights how we anthropomorphize money.
We really do.
We project all of our childhood trauma, our self-worth, and our survival fears onto a completely inanimate medium of exchange.
It's just paper or numbers on a screen.
Exactly. By consciously choosing to be a gracious host, you stop viewing money as a scarce beast you have to hoard and start viewing it as a flow of energy that you are simply participating in.
Okay, I love the theory, but I have to step in here and push back hard on behalf of anyone listening who is drowning in financial stress right now.
Absolutely. Let's ground this.
Because it is incredibly easy to be the gracious host when the guest is bringing you a bonus check.
Of course.
It is easy to say thank you when you are buying a nice dinner. But what about the instruction to say thank you when you're paying a massive, unexpected, devastating bill?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Let's make it real. You are driving to work, your car breaks down, and the mechanic tells you the transmission is blown.
A nightmare scenario.
You are standing at the counter, handing over $2,000 that you desperately needed for rent and groceries, for a repair you absolutely did not want.
Right.
How in the world does a listener authentically find gratitude in the exact moment? How do you say thank you for the ability to pay this without feeling like you're just lying to yourself and pasting toxic positivity over a financial disaster?
That scenario right there is the crucible.
It really is.
That is where the rubber meets the road, and honestly, where most people abandon the practice. Because in that moment at the mechanic's counter, your autonomic nervous system is screaming at you.
It's pure panic.
The default reaction is intense anger, victimhood, and panic. Why does this always happen to me? The universe hates me, my month is ruined.
Which is a normal reaction.
And we have to validate that. Those feelings are entirely human and biologically appropriate for a perceived threat. But this philosophy challenges you to use gratitude to short-circuit the panic spiral.
But how do you do it without lying to yourself?
You don't do it by lying. You do it by zooming in and finding the granular truth of the blessing.
Granular truth.
A truth is you are standing at the counter paying the mechanic, which means by some miracle of modern credit or savings, you actually have the ability to access those funds.
Even if it's going into debt.
Even if it hurts, even if it means putting it on a credit card you have to pay off later, you are paying it. You are grateful that mechanics exist and that the parts are available so your car isn't just a useless piece of metal forever.
Right. It could be unfixable.
Exactly. You are grateful you had a car to begin with. Most importantly, you are grateful that this crisis, as painful and stressful as it is a problem that can be solved with money.
Oh, wow. That hits hard.
There are problems in life, terminal illnesses, the loss of a child that all the money in the world cannot fix. You have a solvable problem.
A solvable problem.
Finding gratitude in the painful expense requires immense mental discipline, but doing so breaks the cycle of victimhood. It proves to your own subconscious that even in a sudden crisis, you are resourceful and you are provided for.
Wow. Okay. That is an incredibly challenging reframe, but it makes total sense. You aren't being grateful for the broken transmission.
No, absolutely not.
You aren't happy it broke. You're being grateful for the solution and your own capacity to navigate it. You're focusing on your strength, not your wound.
Beautifully said.
And, this exact shift from focusing on the negative aspect, the flaw, to focusing on the positive aspect, the ability to solve it, maps perfectly onto how this practice asks us to handle our interpersonal lives.
It's the exact same principle.
Let's look at how this applies to the people around us, moving from our bank accounts to our living rooms.
Yes, moving from the financial mirror to the relational mirror. This is where we examine why relationships, I mean, romantic marriages, familial bonds, professional partnerships, why they so often start out beautifully and then slowly deteriorate into resentment.
The fundamental mechanism is exactly the same, isn't it?
It is.
Relationships break because people inevitably stop focusing on the blessings and start hyper-focusing on the flaws.
It happens every time.
When you first start dating someone, you are entirely enamored. Your RAS is only filtering for their charm, their kindness, their sense of humor.
The honeymoon phase.
Right. But over time, the lens shifts. You get comfortable, and you start keeping a subconscious running tally of their mistakes, their annoying habits, the chores they forgot to do.
You start keeping score.
And that foundational rule we talked about earlier applies here with brutal efficiency. What you appreciate in others grows stronger, but what you constantly criticize in others also grows stronger in your perception.
It's the bouncer at the club again.
The bouncer is back.
If your baseline belief becomes my partner is inconsiderate, your brain will literally ignore the 10 incredibly kind and supportive things they did for you that week.
It just filters them out.
It filters them out as irrelevant. Instead, it will hyper-focus on the one time they left their shoes in the middle of the hallway, and it will present those shoes to you as a neon sign proving that they do not care about you.
Those damn shoes.
Right. To heal a fracturing relationship or to elevate a good one, you have to actively force the bouncer to look at a different list.
You have to change the criteria.
Instead of cataloging their mistakes, you deliberately, forcefully focus on their kindness, their support, or even just the fact that they are alive and present in your life.
Which we take for granted.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Because when human beings feel genuinely appreciated, their nervous systems relax, their defensive walls come down, connection naturally deepens in an environment devoid of constant criticism.
And again, there is a very tactical exercise for this.
Yes, there is.
If you want to heal a strained relationship, you are instructed to sit down and physically write out a list of things you genuinely appreciate about that specific person.
Pen and paper again.
And the crucial rule here is no fake compliments.
Oh, that is so important.
You cannot write, "I love how they always listen to me," if they constantly interrupt you.
Right, because your brain knows you're lying.
It has to be grounded in reality, even if you have to dig incredibly deep to find something small, like, "I appreciate that they make the coffee in the morning."
Exactly.
And the claim is that, as you do this internally, the external dynamic of the relationship actually begins to physically alter.
The relational dynamic at play here is deeply rooted in neuroscience, specifically mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons. Let's unpack that.
When you replace internal criticism with internal gratitude, you change your own energetic and physiological environment. When you interact with this person, after spending 10 minutes writing down genuine appreciation for them, your physical posture is different.
You're not so tense.
Exactly. The micro expressions on your face soften, the tone and cadence of your voice lose their sharp edge, you stop projecting an attack.
And they can feel that.
Humans are highly reactive, deeply intuitive creatures. When the other person's mirror neurons sense that they are no longer being attacked or judged, their own defenses drop.
It's subconscious.
Entirely. They sense this subtle shift in your perception of them. Often, without even realizing why, they will unconsciously begin to act in alignment with that better, higher version of themselves that you are suddenly reflecting back to them.
You literally change their behavior by changing your own internal posture first.
Yes.
I always go back to a garden analogy for this. Think of any long-term relationship like a garden in your backyard. In every single garden on Earth, you are going to have beautiful flowers and you're going to have weeds.
That's just nature.
The flaws, the annoying habits, the bad moods, those are the weeds. The shared laughs, the loyalty, the kindness, those are the flowers.
I like that.
If you walk into your garden every single day and you only stare at the weeds, if you complain about how fast they grow, if you focus all your emotional energy on how much you hate them, you are essentially watering the weeds with your attention.
And what you focus on expands.
Exactly. And what happens? The weeds grow massive and choke out the flowers. Practicing gratitude in a relationship is the deliberate act of watering the flowers.
Watering the good things.
You give your attention, your energy, and your verbal appreciation to the good things. And eventually, the flowers grow so robustly and beautifully that the weeds just don't matter as much anymore. They are still there, but they don't ruin the garden.
The garden analogy captures the exact mechanism of attention perfectly. You only have so much water in your watering can each day. Where are you pouring it?
But I need to get pause here,
Okay, what's up?
because I know there are listeners who are thinking about very specific, highly difficult people in their lives, and this sounds like terrible advice for them.
Okay, let's address it.
What if the relationship is genuinely toxic? What if you are dealing with a boss who is verbally abusive, or a partner who is a raging narcissist, or a family member who is continually willfully destructive?
Those are very real situations.
Is this philosophy honestly suggesting that we should just ignore terrible, damaging behavior, stay in a toxic environment, and paste a layer of fake gratitude over it?
Like, thank you for being awful.
Right. Thank you for screaming at me in front of the whole office. It really builds my character. Because that sounds incredibly dangerous.
That is a vital distinction, and it is exactly why the rule against fake compliments exists.
Okay, good.
Gratitude is never, ever a demand to accept abuse, nor is it a tool for psychological delusion. We are not advocating for being a doormat.
Thank goodness.
If a relationship is truly toxic, dangerous, or actively destroying your mental health, the most profound act of gratitude you can practice for your own life is to leave that relationship entirely.
Right. Walking away and setting an ironclad boundary is an act of gratitude for your own safety and future.
Precisely. However, life is complicated.
It is.
Let's say we're talking about a difficult relationship that you cannot immediately leave. Maybe it's a co-parent you have to deal with for the next 10 years.
Or a boss you can't quit on right now.
Exactly. In those scenarios, the practice of gratitude is not about ignoring their bad behavior or pretending they're a saint. It is entirely about stopping your own internal bleeding.
Internal bleeding. Explain that.
If you spend all evening at home ruminating on how terrible your boss isn't suffering.
No, your boss is at home watching TV.
You are suffering. Your cortisol is spiking. Your evening is ruined. By forcing yourself to find one or two genuine, objective things to appreciate. Maybe the boss is highly organized, which keeps the company afloat. Or maybe the difficult co-parent is at least punctual.
Just finding one small thing.
Yes. By doing that, you are unhooking yourself from the cycle of obsessive resentment. You aren't excusing their behavior. You are simply refusing to let their bad behavior be the only thing your brain is allowed to process.
You are taking your power back.
You are protecting your own inner peace from their chaos.
That is so freeing. It's not about them. It's about protecting your own nervous system. You aren't letting their flaws dictate your emotional baseline.
Exactly.
And here's where the philosophy takes a massive leap.
Let's take the leap.
When you do this, when you start watering the flowers in your relationships, when you shift your financial mindset from panic to trust, when you warm up the engine every morning, your entire energetic footprint in the world begins to change.
The outward ripple effect.
The sources argue that this internal shift doesn't just make you feel calmer. It actually turns you into a literal magnet in the broader world. It pulls reality toward you.
Yes, this moves us into the magnetism of positivity and fulfillment. And to understand this, we have to dismantle the most pervasive, damaging myth in modern society.
What's the myth?
From the time we are in kindergarten, we are taught a very specific, linear formula for life. Work incredibly hard, achieve success, and then you will be happy.
The ultimate conditional happiness trap. I'll be grateful when I finally get that promotion to VP. I'll be happy when I buy the 4-bedroom house. I'll be grateful when I finally lose the 20 pounds and find my soulmate.
It's always in the future.
We treat gratitude as the trophy we get at the end of the marathon.
But the neuroscience of joy and this framework flips that equation entirely. It states unequivocally, happiness does not come after success. Success comes after happiness.
So you have to be happy first.
Yes. The idea is that gratitude creates a foundational baseline of fulfillment right now in the present moment, regardless of your tiny apartment or your entry-level job.
Even if things aren't perfect.
You must generate the frequency of gratitude first, and then, as a direct result of that state of being, your external life begins to organize itself around that frequency and improve.
The philosophy claims that gratitude literally shifts your vibration from lack to abundance, from fear to trust.
And people feel that.
And because of this internal neurological shift, grateful people naturally, effortlessly attract better opportunities. They radiate a completely different kind of energy.
They do. They
And
really do.
they're more resilient, more creative, more confident. Employers notice it immediately. Friends feel it. Customers trust it. People are just naturally drawn to people who actually appreciate being alive.
If we look at human behavioral psychology, this is entirely logical. Opportunities don't fall out of the sky. They are brought to you by other people.
Right. Through human networks.
Jobs, investments, dates, friendships, they all come through human gateways.
Hmm.
And human beings have a highly tuned subconscious radar for the energetic state of others.
We can smell desperation.
Oh, absolutely. Think about your own life and your own choices.
Yeah.
If you are starting a business and you have to choose a partner,
Okay.
candidate A is constantly complaining, cynical, hyper-focused on why the economy is terrible, and operates from a place of deep insecurity and lack.
Sounds exhausting.
Candidate B has the exact same resume, but they are appreciative, solution-oriented, genuinely happy to be there, and operate from a place of trust. Who do you give the opportunity to?
Candidate B. Every single time. It's not even a debate. You want to be around the person who makes you feel energized, not drained.
Exactly. We naturally gravitate toward positive energy because our own nervous systems feel safe and expansive around it.
We feel secure.
When you practice deep, consistent gratitude, you aren't just changing your inner monologue, you are broadcasting a completely different outward signal.
Like a radio station.
Yes, you become a person that others subconsciously want to invest in, collaborate with, and help succeed. Opportunities always flow toward the path of least resistance, and a genuinely grateful person offers almost zero energetic resistance to the world.
I look at this conditional happiness trap, like the
Mhm.
classic cart before the horse fallacy.
How do you mean?
We all live our lives believing that the massive success, the money, the perfect partner that is the horse. And we believe that once we catch that horse, it is going to pull the happiness cart behind it.
Right.
So we whip ourselves, we stress out, we burn out, desperately trying to catch the horse so we can finally sit in the cart and relax.
It's exhausting just talking about it.
But this philosophy argues that we have the dynamic totally backward. Happiness generated right now by gratitude is actually the horse.
The horse is the happiness.
If you build the happiness first, if you feed that horse and make it strong, it will pull the success, the money, and the relationships effortlessly behind it. You just have to hitch the horse correctly.
That is a brilliant visualization. If you put the cart first, you're just pushing dead weight uphill.
But of course, I have a massive glaring question about this.
I figured you might.
Because if the ultimate goal is to be entirely fulfilled and deeply, profoundly grateful right now, exactly as you are in your current circumstances,
Yeah.
doesn't that completely kill ambition?
The ambition question.
Doesn't ambition, by its very definition, require a deep sense of dissatisfaction with the status quo? If I am completely happy and grateful for my beat-up car and my low-paying job, don't I lose my drive to innovate, to build a company, or to achieve greatness?
It's a fair point.
Doesn't profound gratitude just turn you into a complacent couch potato?
That is the paradox that trips up almost every high achiever who encounters this material.
Because we're taught to hustle.
Right. We culturally conflate ambition with anxiety. We firmly believe that if we aren't terrified of failure or deeply agonizingly dissatisfied with our current lot in life, we won't take action.
We think we need the stick, not the carrot.
We think pain is the only fuel that burns hot enough to drive us. But I want you to look at the most truly transcendent, innovative people in history. The master artists, the visionary inventors, the people who changed the world.
Okay.
They do not work 80-hour weeks because they hate their current lives and are running away from a deep sense of inadequacy.
Why do they do it then?
They work because they're in a flow state of deep inspiration. They operate from a place of joy, curiosity, and creative expansion. Gratitude does not kill ambition, it purifies it.
Purifies it. Wow.
When you are driven by dissatisfaction and a feeling of lack, your ambition is frantic. It is stressful, reactive, and highly prone to burnout because you are frantically trying to fill a hole in your soul with external achievements.
You're running from something, not toward something.
Precisely. But when you are driven by gratitude, you are already full. Your ambition becomes an expression of abundance rather than a cry for help.
So you still want to achieve things.
Yes. You want to build the company or write the novel or run the marathon, not because you need those things to validate your existence, but because you are so incredibly grateful for your skills, your mind, and your opportunities that you simply want to see how far you can take them.
It's like playing a game, just to see how high a score you can get, not because you'll die if you lose.
Exactly. Complacency is sitting on the couch doing nothing because you don't care. Gratitude is recognizing you have strong legs, being thrilled about it, and deciding to see how fast you can run just for the joy of the sprint.
Gratitude does not kill ambition. It
Yeah.
purifies it. That completely shifts the paradigm. It moves the motivation from escaping pain to pursuing joy.
It's a much cleaner fuel source.
And it is relatively easy to radiate that kind of joyful ambition, to water the flowers and be a gracious host when you are on the upward swing of life.
When things are going
When
well.
you are pursuing goals and things are generally going your way. But the sources we are studying do not let us stay in the shallow end of the pool.
No, they go deep.
They take us into the deepest, darkest, most terrifying waters of the human experience. Because the ultimate defining test of this entire philosophy comes when success feels completely impossible, when the worst possible things happen, and when your life turns genuinely dark.
Yes. This is where we confront gratitude during times of profound suffering.
It's tough stuff.
And the text openly, honestly admits that this is perhaps the most difficult, counterintuitive lesson in the entire framework.
It acknowledges that when you are in real pain, when you have been betrayed, when you lose a loved one, when life feels fundamentally, aggressively unfair, the very suggestion of gratitude seems not just impossible, but offensive.
It feels like an insult.
Yet it insists that this is exactly when we must wield it the most. It clarifies that practicing gratitude in the dark does not mean pretending the pain doesn't exist.
No toxic positivity here.
It doesn't mean slapping a toxic smiley face sticker over a gaping wound. It means holding on to the radical belief that even in the absolute center of this darkness, something of value can still emerge.
It requires a level of emotional maturity and psychological flexibility that most people never develop.
It's master-level practice.
It really is. The text provides a framework for reframing our suffering, suggesting that difficult moments inevitably contain hidden lessons, necessary growth, and future blessings that we simply do not have the vantage point to see yet.
We're too close to it.
Right. It introduces three incredibly powerful, challenging concepts to help reframe disaster. Sometimes setbacks protect us, sometimes delays prepare us, and sometimes endings create better beginnings.
Let's really pause and digest those three. Setbacks protect us, delays prepare us, endings create better beginnings.
Such powerful statements.
The core argument here is that the strongest, most resilient people on Earth are not the ones who never suffer. They are the ones who stubbornly continue finding the light in the darkness.
To really unpack this, we have to look at the human relationship with time, ego, and control.
We love control.
We do. We suffer most deeply when reality refuses to match our incredibly narrow timeline or our specific plan. You get laid off from the job you thought was your destiny. A relationship you swore was forever ends abruptly. The bank denies the loan for the house you wanted.
And it feels like the end of the world.
In the immediate moment, your ego registers this as a senseless, catastrophic tragedy, but what gratitude asks you to do in these moments is to adopt a perspective of profound, radical trust.
Trusting the process.
When it says setbacks protect us, it is asking you to acknowledge the severe limits of your own vision. You do not have a crystal ball.
You don't know the future.
You have no idea what disaster that lost job actually saved you from. You don't know the misery that relationship would have brought you 5 years down the line.
That's so true.
When it says delays prepare us, it means trusting that you are not actually ready for the immense responsibility of the thing you are demanding.
Like getting the promotion before you have the skills.
Exactly. It means trusting that life, or the universe, or God, however you conceptualize it, is giving you the necessary time in the wilderness to build the emotional strength and the skills you will absolutely need to hold the blessing when it finally does arrive.
I read this section, and I immediately thought of a controlled forest fire.
Oh, tell me about that.
If you are standing in the middle of a forest while it is burning, it is an apocalyptic nightmare. It is terrifying, it is hot, the smoke is suffocating, it is purely destructive, and it feels like the end of the world. All you can see is the devastation of the trees you loved.
It just looks like destruction.
But ecologists look at that same fire totally differently. They know that the fire is actually a vital necessity for the survival of the ecosystem.
Right, the forest needs it.
The fire clears out all the dead, choking brush on the forest floor, and the intense, agonizing heat literally cracks open specific pine cones that have been lying dormant on the ground for years, allowing new seeds to finally germinate in the freshly cleared, nutrient-rich soil.
So the fire brings new life.
Exactly. The fire is absolutely an ending, yes, but it is the exact necessary mechanism required for a healthier, more robust beginning. This philosophy is asking us to view our own personal devastating fires through the long-term eyes of the ecologist, not just the terrified eyes of the bystander.
The forest fire analogy is deeply accurate, specifically because it does not deny the heat, the terror, or the destruction.
It still burns.
It doesn't minimize the reality that the fire burns, but it demands that you recognize the broader biological purpose of the event. Gratitude in the dark is the profound act of standing in the ashes of your carefully laid plans, feeling the heat of the loss and saying, I am in agony, but I trust that new seeds are going to grow in this soil.
But I have to bring the listeners' very real, raw pain into the room right now.
Please do.
Because theoretical fires are easy to talk about. But if someone listening to us right this second is in the middle of profound, acute grief,
Yeah.
if they just buried a loved one, or received a devastating stage 4 medical diagnosis, or watched their entire life's work collapse into bankruptcy this morning,
The deepest darkness.
telling them to find the hidden lesson or to view their tragedy as preparation might feel incredibly callous. It might feel like a slap in the face. How does a listener practically apply this concept without trivializing or suppressing their own very real, agonizing pain?
We have to tread with the utmost empathy here because this is the most sensitive area of the entire practice.
It requires so much care.
In the immediate, acute aftermath of a profound trauma or an unbearable loss, the goal is absolutely not to force yourself to say, I am so grateful my loved one died because it taught me to be independent.
That would be horrible.
That is grotesque, it is psychologically damaging, and this framework is emphatically not advocating for that.
So what do you do?
In the center of the acute fire, when you can barely breathe, gratitude scales all the way down to the microscopic level of basic survival.
Micro-gratitude.
Exactly. In profound grief, gratitude isn't about looking at the big picture or finding the grand lesson. It's about finding the strength for the very next breath.
Just getting through the minute.
It is saying, I am in pure agony, but I am grateful for the friend who came over and silently handed me a glass of water.
Wow.
I am devastated, but I am grateful that the sun physically came up today and the world is still turning. I am broken, but I am so incredibly grateful I had the capacity to love someone so deeply that it hurts this badly to lose them.
That is incredibly powerful.
You do not ever have to be grateful for the tragedy. You are desperately looking for the tiny, almost invisible points of light within the tragedy that allow your nervous system to survive the next hour.
Like a lifeline.
You use microgratitude as a lifeline, a tiny thread tying you to the world of the living until the acute pain eventually begins to recede and the longer-term perspective of growth and preparation can eventually naturally emerge on its own timeline.
Thank you so much for making that distinction. You don't have to be grateful for the tragedy. You find gratitude within the survival of it.
That's the key.
That is a vital, life-saving distinction. It honors the absolute reality of the pain while still utilizing the tool to keep you from drowning.
Exactly.
And coming out of that darkness, realizing that we can actually survive our fires and that our painful setbacks might actually be preparations for something greater, it completely shifts how we view our current reality.
It changes everything.
It strips away our entitlement and leads us to look at our lives right now in this exact second with totally fresh, awakened eyes. Which brings us to the culmination of everything we've explored today.
Yes. The text brings us to a final grounding summary of this overarching journey we've been on.
Pulling it all together.
What we have been dissecting for the last hour is not a passive feel-good philosophy. It is an active, aggressive transmutation of reality.
Transmutation. I love that word.
Gratitude, when applied mechanically and emotionally as described in these chapters, is the exact mechanism that turns ordinary, easily overlooked, boring moments into absolute miracles.
It is the ultimate shift. It moves us from a baseline of constantly complaining about what we lack, the money we don't have in the bank, the perfect partner we haven't found yet, the career milestone we keep missing,
The endless list of wants.
to a profound, sometimes shocking realization of the immense wealth we already possess.
Following the text's final, urging message, I think we need to pull this out of the theoretical and make it visceral for the listener, right now, in real time.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So to you, listening to us right now, whether you are driving or walking or doing the dishes, the text asks you to do something very specific.
Try this with us.
Literally, right now, I want you to take a deep breath, pull the air into your lungs, and feel your chest expand, and look around your life. Do a brutally honest inventory.
Really look at it.
There are absolutely undeniably blessings in your life right now in this exact moment that you once prayed for. Things you once desperately, agonizingly wanted, but that you have now adapted to, gotten used to, and take completely for granted.
The miraculous ability to wake up this morning.
Right.
The fact that you have the cognitive ability to learn to listen to new ideas and to change your mind. The people you love who are still here. The fundamental, unassailable ability to dream of a different future.
It's all right there.
The fact that no matter what terrible mistakes you made yesterday, no matter what you lost, you have the ability to start again today.
We spend our entire lives frantically searching for magic. We look for it in hitting the lottery, in achieving massive status, in finding the perfect person to fix us, in a future that hasn't happened yet.
Always looking outward.
But the real magic, the actual alchemy that changes reality, was never outside of you. It was never in the promotion or the bank account. It was always quietly, patiently waiting within your own conscious ability to appreciate the exact life you are living right now.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
Okay, lay it on us.
Something that builds on the neuroscience and the philosophy we've unpacked, but takes it one step further into the realm of potential.
I'm intrigued.
We've talked extensively about how gratitude can rewire your brain to experience the present moment differently. We've talked about how it can reframe the pain of your past, turning the ashes of old failures into the fertile soil of preparation.
Right, the timeline of past and present.
But if gratitude has the power to alter your present reality and rewrite the meaning of your past, could gratitude actually operate as a form of a time machine?
A time machine. Okay, I am fully hooked. Where are you going with this?
Think about the physics of focus we established at the beginning. If you can feel genuine, visceral, emotional gratitude right now for the future you are trying to build.
Being grateful for something that hasn't happened yet.
Yes. If you can sit in your morning routine and feel deeply thankful for the success, the healing, or the love before it even physically arrives, you are essentially matching the emotional and neurological frequency of your future self.
Oh, wow.
Your brain doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined emotion and a current reality. You are feeling the reality of the dream before the physical evidence materializes.
It's like hacking the RAS for the future.
And if, as this entire framework claims, your reticular activating system and the world around you respond to your internal vibration, could being actively, intensely grateful for the person you want to become literally pull that future reality towards you faster.
Collapsing the timeline.
Exactly. Could gratitude be the gravitational pull that collapses the timeline between where you are standing right now and where you are meant to be?
Wow. Being grateful for the future before it happens in order to pull it towards you. That is a massive, mind-bending concept to chew on.
It's powerful stuff to leave with.
That is the kind of thought you can just sit with for days. It really brings us full circle. We started this deep dive wondering why some people seem to just effortlessly attract the life they want while sitting in traffic.
And the answer wasn't luck.
And the answer wasn't luck or an inheritance or a secret formula. It was just the deliberate, sometimes incredibly difficult, but endlessly powerful choice to appreciate what is.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this journey today. Take that deep breath, look at your life, warm up the engine, and remember the core promise of the material. The more grateful you become, the more magical life begins to feel. Keep looking for the good. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.